AHSOKA has wrapped up and we give our full post-game analysis. Did it meet expectations? Episode rankings. And of course we answer the question. We answer the question, where does this dude?
I don't know, man. I just miss her.
You were a ghost last week.
Hey, man, I got better.
Why don't you have a seat? You know, man, she's got Sabine, Force Ghost Anakin, potential Lovecraftian deities, the crab people. I think she's in good hands.
You're right. There's a lot to talk about beyond the Dune Sea. We have to move on. Also, Loki was tight.
Welcome to Beyond the Dune Sea. My name is Konnor.
And I am Seth.
My favorite comment from last week from @presuming_ed on YouTube. I can't help but feel like it would have been way more interesting if Ezra had been corrupted by the sun or whatever darkness surrounds Peridia.
Ooh. And my favorite comment was from Drummer83. That opening, ... I had to stop what I was doing because it had me laughing so much. Awesome show, guys. Can't wait to see where you go.
Oh,
appreciate that.
You guys.
Appreciate that. I'm excited to see where we go too.
The Force Ghost stuff was fun.
Yes, it was. Maybe he'll make a return at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope no one noticed the double mic that you had. Did you see that?
I just noticed that you could see me in the chair for a moment before I actually appeared.
Oh, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. There was one person I showed, an older woman that I work with, that she was just like, "Well, where are you?" And I'm like, "Just wait a second." It was like she was genuinely concerned why you were by yourself.
That's too good.
It is.
So it has been quite the 7 weeks, my friend.
Yes, it has.
We just had 7 weeks of Star Wars.
Yes.
And not just Star Wars, but some pretty dang good Star Wars, if I do say so myself. And it's time to kind of wrap her up, to do a little post-game
reflection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Little reflection. And just to sort of set the stage for what we're doing here. It's going to be what we're going to do going forward after the end of a show. A movie is sort of post-game. You know, the recency bias is starting to fade away. We've had some time to sit with the show, sit with the episodes.
Let it stew with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we can give a little bit more of our full thoughts and feelings. So let's kind of, what's your overall season review of Ahsoka season 1? I'm going to say season 1. Ahsoka season 1.
That's
season
daring
review.
Of you.
It is daring of me, but we may have some evidence to back that up here toward the end.
My goodness. Okay. So overall, I think that is a pretty solid Star Wars show. I think that it really hit its stride in the middle. That I think the beginning feels a lot like Rebels. The end feels a lot like Rebels. But that middle part, ooh. We were hitting on all cylinders, I felt like. And don't get me wrong, there was stuff I liked at the beginning, and there was stuff that I liked at the end. But I really, really, really liked the middle. And I guess my main thought going forward is just like, if Star Wars stays in that vein, like about as good as this, I think it's going to be okay. Because I worry about it more than I should. I get worried about the state of it. I want people to like it. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to have fun with it. I don't want to be like, when I meet people for the first time, it's kind of one of my opening things where I'll just be like, "You guys like Star Wars?" And like, and I'm always just like, "That sucks." Like, I don't want that to be that. Where it's just like, no, I'm really liking what they're doing on Disney Plus. Like, that's what I want to hear. So I feel like if Dave's movie and Dave's series continue to go on with at least this much, like if it's this good, I think that we're going to be doing all right. If that makes any kind of sense. I granted it did follow a lot of there was a lot of Rebels characters involved in this, so it did feel a little bit too much like Rebels. I'm excited to see when it like will take off in other directions, though. I want to see him tackle things in other directions. But overall, thought it was awesome. In my like ranking of the Disney Plus shows, I don't think it's better than Mando 2. But I think
season 2, you mean?
Season 2, yes. Mando season 2. I still think that that's like the best the best Disney Star Wars series. And then I think it probably has my 2 or 3 slot. It's just as good as Mando season 1, in my opinion.
Okay.
So yeah, quick thoughts.
All right. Yeah. So, man, I like a lot of that. What you said. It's a good point. Thinking about the fans and where the fans are at, and coming up to people and saying, "Hey, do you like Star Wars?" Because I'll admit when people ask me about Star Wars, I'm kind of like bracing myself, always in my mind, like, okay, let's play it safe. Gotta love A New Hope, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not you're not always time to start the arguments, and it is unfortunate. I guess I've never thought about it that way, that we're kind of in that space, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I hope that I've seen mostly positive. You're always going to have the people out there that just hate to hate, and whatever, those people could be that way.
Yeah.
But it's fun to be positive, and it's fun to not have to fake it either. It's fun that it's good. And for me, before I get into my actual overall review, the Mando thing, I love Mando a lot. I think that the format for Mando is not really for me the way that this format is for me, if that makes sense. Like serialized television that's like, we may go into this plot point next week, we may not, I think that's great. I'm not downplaying that style of storytelling. It's just the way that Ahsoka delivered its story is more for me. Go ahead.
Well, Mando season 2 really is more like
it has more of an overarching plot. I agree.
Me, I like having an overarching plot. But again, having your adventure of the week sprinkled in there, that's not bad too.
No, it's not. It's not. But in there was the joke, right? About, we're going to stop by Pelimoto's this week on Mando, and that's always in the back of my mind when I'm watching Mandalorian, which isn't a bad thing. Those can be fun episodes.
Yeah.
But knowing it's nice to have both now. We're like, we can have Mando for that, where it's the adventure of the week, and we can have stuff like Ahsoka for these big overarching plots that really affect the galaxy in all of these ways, which I think is really fun, because I'm glad that while I love Mando and everything it's done, I kind of hope that it does return to that Mando season 1 form, where it is that adventure of the week, now that it doesn't need to bear the weight, of all of Star Wars on its back. Basically, there's all this other stuff that's out there now, and it doesn't need to. So my overall thoughts on the show, obviously you all can tell, I really liked it. But
over Peridia, if you will, like over the moon.
Yeah,
over Peridia.
Over. That's no moon.
Exactly. Exactly.
To best illustrate my thoughts here, just play along here with me. Close your eyes for a moment. You guys out in the audience, you play along here too. Imagine you have a time machine and you go back to 2019. TROS just came out, so end of 2019, maybe early 2020. TROS has just come out. Star Wars fans were fractured. Some aren't feeling very good about the franchise. Some are. You know what? Let's go even farther back. 2015, even before TFA. No one knows what to expect from Star Wars. And tell your younger self, hey, we just got this show. It's live action. It's about two dark Jedi and a Night Sister. They are trying to find Grand Admiral Thrawn and his army of zombie stormtroopers in another galaxy by studying space whale migration patterns. Meanwhile, Ahsoka is trying to stop them with her Mandalorian Padawan, but has to overcome her fears of, reliving her deepest trauma in the Clone Wars with the help of the ghost of Anakin Skywalker. Like, just think about that, I mean, you guys can come back to me. It's we can open our eyes and, but seriously, I mean, step back for a minute and really picture that. It's just,
when you paint that picture, it sounds pretty cool.
It does, right? It's just, it's crazy that we
live at a time.
Yeah, that's what we're getting, right? Because previously this was stuff that we were only getting in animation. I love the animation.
It's stuff of legend.
It is literally the stuff of legends. The zombie stormtroopers, Thrawn. Thrawn was in Rebels, but to see it in live action, it's a jump. It's that tangibility, and because I don't want people to think I'm taking away from the animation. I absolutely love. I mean, Clone Wars is some of my favorite Star Wars of all time, but when you really think about like this show and what it did and all the elements that it brought in, it just, wow. It's really cool that it's building on the lore in this way. And I think that, I don't know about you, but as a Star Wars fan, it just, for a long time, it kind of felt like we would just never get something like this. It felt like we would get sprinklings here and there. You may get a Night Sister mention, or in a video game like Fallen Order, right? You may get a passing reference to Anakin Skywalker like in Mandalorian, but you're not going to get his name.
You get Kylo Ren, show me the darkness, grandfather.
Yeah.
But nothing more than that.
Yeah, but nothing more than
exactly,
that. Right.
Where it's just kind of like, okay, that's cool, I guess. They're like, I like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it was a hanging thread. It never really got resolved, like kinda. Yeah, but like you had to read a book.
And we've mentioned this before, but this show, it really feels like this is a true continuation of the plot threads of the original trilogy more so than the sequel trilogy. And again, if you like the sequels, that's awesome. I'm glad that there are people
I like elements of the sequels.
No, me too.
Yeah.
And it's always a line you got to walk when you talk about the sequels, because people get really heated, and it's not what we're about, and, but I'd be lying if I said that there were aspects that I loved the whole thing, because I don't, unfortunately. I wish that I did. But the main reason that I don't, aside from, I wish it had a better direction. One of these days we will get into it and more and deeper, but it really just felt like they wouldn't go all in on Star Wars. Like what you just said with Kylo Ren. Like, why did we never get Anakin Skywalker in the sequel trilogy?
Yeah.
Like, why was that never established? Because if you really picture it, picture you've never seen the sequel trilogy. Okay. And the last thing you see in the original trilogy is the Force ghosts, and Anakin is there. Right. And if you're going to tell a story about Luke and and Anakin's grandson who's fallen to the dark side and like worships Darth Vader, it's just so weird to me, and it just felt like Star Wars was so scared
to be Star Wars.
Yeah. It had to play the most basic hits, like, oh, here's a droid that's basically R2-D2, which I love BB-8, by the way. I'll just throw that out there. I'm not dogging on BB-8. That was one of my favorite parts of the sequels. I just think it's a super cool design. So that's my overall thoughts of the show. Is it just, it wasn't perfect. There's things that I don't love, which we'll get into here in a minute. But there are things that I really do love. I think that it builds on this legacy of the thing that I love. I love Star Wars. I love the things that I grew up with. It's not just nostalgia. It's continuations of stories and threads that I've come to know by heart. And it makes sense to me. It's not just, I didn't feel like it was trying to wink and nudge at me, like, oh, hey, you remember this? You remember? Hey, you remember?
I
that?
remember.
Yeah. It didn't feel like that. It felt like a continuation of that thing that I love. And that's what was really cool about it. So that's kind of my overall review. I would put it where I would rank it on the shows. Y'all know me. Kenobi's my number one. I know it's a hot take.
The hottest.
it might be the recency bias. I'd probably put it above Kenobi. But there are elements of Kenobi that I probably that hit harder for me.
You mean scenes?
Scenes that probably hit harder for me. But I posted this on my personal Instagram that like Kenobi was like seeing an old friend. Ahsoka was like meeting someone new, like making a new friend.
Kind of like the day you met me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Little like that. They're both great feelings.
It was in passing, really.
Yeah.
The day that we met. Yeah.
Well, but hey, look what it turned into.
Yeah, I know. Look what it turned into. But yeah, it's just I'm not like it wasn't like.
But that's the feeling that I get from both shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard for me to pit those against each other. It's like man,
what's a better feeling?
A childhood friend versus like making a new friend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I probably right now, just my gut tells me Ahsoka, but give it a month, I might change my mind.
Yeah,
but it's cool. It's cool, man. I'm with you. I like if this is the quality that we're getting going forward. Yeah. There's some things I hope they improve on, but overall, kind of sitting at that in my mind, it's like 8.5 out of 10 mark. Okay. I'm good with that. I'm good coasting at that 8.5 out of 10.
Okay. I want to go back to that like whole, you had me close my eyes earlier and stuff. Okay. And I want to kind of go back to that. What were your let's Antag Flow walk back to 2015 or like, that it's like, what were like, I guess 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago. What were your expectations for this show?
Oh, my expectations going into this show.
Yeah. That's like, I was just curious, I guess, what were you kind of thinking?
So I can track this back to when the show was announced.
Oh,
so I remember when this show announced at the same time Kenobi was during that big Disney Plus panel back in 2020. Do you remember that?
I think they did, because I remember the logo. And everyone was like trying to pick apart the logo. Where it's like, it's all there. It's the world between. And look, it did turn out to be the world between worlds.
Yeah, like just not in the way that we thought.
Yes, yeah.
So I had very specific things in my mind for both Kenobi and Ahsoka. And I've had very specific things in my mind for all of these shows. Now, when I say that, I know a lot of people are going to have like, oh yeah, you're probably disappointed because, these shows aren't living up to your fan expectations. No, not at all. I have kind of a two-part to that. It's like I have my fan expectations, like what does the fanboy in me want to see? Then there's also like the realistic, like looking at, I always talk about like behind the scenes, the filmmaking, like what's realistic. And then there's that element of me that's trying to think about it. And for Ahsoka, my expectations were I wanted both Clone Wars flashback and Force Ghost Anakin. Because I was like, it does not make sense to have this show without Anakin. It doesn't make sense. It's not about, we mentioned this when the episode aired. It doesn't make sense. It's not about being a fanboy. It's not about any of that. It's about closing this arc for this character that's been going on for so long. And you cannot do that without this person that's been so influential in her life. But it didn't make sense to have one or the other. Because to me, a Clone Wars flashback did feel fan servicey. I was like, that only makes sense if you're bookending it with a Force Ghost scene. Like if those two are playing off of each other.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's how that made sense. A Force Ghost made way more sense narratively just to appear. I love the way that they did it, that there wasn't really a flashback. I could have never called the way that they did it, but just in my mind, that was my expectation. So pretty much hit that expectation out of the park. I expected to see Rex, like old man Rex. We didn't get that, so that one didn't happen. I am actually kind of surprised we didn't, even after seeing the show. I could have seen him because he would have been old, but there's been some speculation like does their aging slow down after a certain point? So I could see him. I could have seen him going with Sabine and Ahsoka to Peridia and being stranded there with them. I don't think that would have taken away from their stories. Maybe it would have been too convoluted. I don't know, but I think that he would have worked well in that part of the story. So I am sort of surprised we didn't see that. calling back to my favorite comment from earlier from presuming_Ed, I did expect to see Ezra be a Darksider. I kind of thought that him and Thrawn might have been working together a little bit, but in their exile, and they'd have to. I don't know if you know from the comics, the canon comics of Thrawn, where he's got like the long hair. You ever seen those?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I expected Thrawn to look like, and him and Ezra had to survive. Yeah, that they had to just do a bunch of stuff to survive. And Thrawn Ezra had kind of turned to the dark side a little bit. So, not super surprised that didn't happen, but I am surprised that Ezra didn't have much character development at all. That is one of my primary negatives of the show. Ended almost exactly as I expected it to. I did expect Thrawn to make it back to the galaxy by the end. I expected it to end on that cliffhanger pretty much. So the stuff with Baylan and Shin, I had no idea. Basically, as soon as the first trailer dropped, I was like, who are these guys? No idea. But overall, I was pretty optimistic. The one expectation, you know what? I'll actually hold this because it's an overall thought, because you might say the same thing. So You go ahead with your expectations.
Okay. So, I have a confession to make, in which you know this, but I don't know if the audience knows this, that like, I am not the biggest Ahsoka Tano fan, and I was terrified for this show because, in which I don't know if I've talked about this, like, I don't know if I've actually mentioned it on the show, that like this, I was going into it, I felt like it was the most important Star Wars thing ever, because she just hinges on everything.
Yep.
She's involved in Rebels, she's involved in Clone Wars, she's involved with Anakin, she's involved with the Mandalorian. If this what didn't go over well, everything's kind of ruined going forward.
Yeah.
And it kind of retroactively ruins the other things that she's in, because you know where it's going if you didn't like it either.
Yeah.
And so my expectations were just so low for this show that I was just like, just be good. Just be coherent. That was really all I really wanted.
I remember.
And I'm really surprised because he kind of retroactively helped a lot of the things, because like one of my big problems was like, how can she she just would show up randomly and she was just awesome. And it didn't really it didn't explain a lot. It was just like, well, wait, why can she fight Darth Maul to a T? Well, wait, why can she hold her own against Darth Vader? Well, wait, why can she? Yeah, it's just like no matter because she was always popping up at random points in the. She could fight several Inquisitors at once. That it was like, just wherever. But this show helped kind of explain that, where it's like, she's a warrior. She's not much else. She's good at fighting, and so that's all she is. Yeah, and because of that, she pieces out all the time because she's afraid of all the other Jedi stuff. And it's like, okay, that helps a lot with the character, because that was one of my biggest complaints, was just like, wait, you show up, you do some amazing stuff, and then you leave? They're like, oh, okay, Dave, you just want to keep your girl out of everything, so then she can't get hurt again, basically. And or have potential to be, destroyed. So yeah, that I will say that now that I do like the character of Ahsoka a little bit more. I think Rosario is my favorite version of Ahsoka, hands down.
Really?
Yeah, I think that I feel like that she's pretty much the same one as the one in Rebels at this point.
She is a great extension of the animated character.
Yes, so that I would but I mean, again, I've always liked Rosario ever since Clerks 2, so that I've always been a fan. So it's really cool that she's passionate about it and wants to keep playing the character going forward and stuff like that. She seems committed to it. So, but yeah, that just because Ahsoka was so intertwined in everything Star Wars, I was just really, really worried about it, and I thought it turned out all right. So
that's funny, because that was actually my last point. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So I thought
it was. I remember laying in bed and thinking about that.
Yeah, it's like
and just being like,
I weighed on your mind quite heavily. I remember.
Oh yeah, no, it just bothered me that I was just like, no. Like, I mean, if this doesn't go right, everything, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
And you could ruin other things too, other things that I like. Yeah, retroactively somehow. Yeah, that it's.
My fear came. I've always loved Ahsoka. Well, not always, but I've loved Ahsoka.
Yeah.
For a while, so that wasn't so much my fear. My fear was Star Wars was kind of in a rocky spot. We just came out of somehow people were upset with Kenobi. So there was that. You know, there were some fans that had, I know you're one of them. And then there
just should have been a movie.
I mean,
you could have fixed a lot of it with a movie, Konnor.
We're not
going to get into it. We're not going to get into it. That's just my thought. There you go. And that's it right there.
But then you had Andor, and a lot of people really, really loved it. But for some reason, there was like this weird thing with Andor where the people who loved it used that love to hate everything else. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah. Andor is a weird animal. Someday we'll talk about Andor.
Yeah. I like it. It's just it was weird to see that where people were like, it's so good, but because it's good, this is bad.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But then,
it's very different from all the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they were like weaponizing, basically.
Weaponizing it. That's a great way to put it. It was weird. I don't know why you're doing that. Like both can be good. Anyway,
it's okay to like things.
Yeah. That could be the tagline of our show, people. It's okay to like things. I'm gonna print that out and put it right here. Honestly.
Yeah.
Some of the comments we get sometimes, it's like, man, it's like eye rolls when we're talking about something we like. I'm like, okay, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry for having fun.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I literally reply to cut people when I say that. Like, sorry, we're having fun, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway. But you had that thing with Andor, and then you had Mando season 3, which a lot of people were disappointed by.
I love The Mandalorian, but that last season was rough.
Me too. It wasn't my favorite. Things I like about it, things I kind of didn't. So anyway, Star Wars is in kind of a rocky spot where, and not to mention, there was the actual fiscal issues of Disney Plus. Like Disney Plus isn't making money, really. It's like
kind of hemorrhaging money. Yeah.
So what's going to happen with Ahsoka? And so that was my fear. It's like, man, if this flops, because Star Wars fans are brutal. So I may like it, but if it's not exceptional though, it could really tank a lot of this, because there was some talks in the beginning, like a couple months ago, like maybe Mando's going to be turned into a movie to wrap it all up and then they're going to be done. Because if you remember, like last year, they were saying Mando's indefinite. We're going to have a million seasons, just going to keep going.
Yeah. But
then there was some talk of maybe it's going to be a movie, and now they're back to doing a show. It was rocky. And now I'm hoping, I've seen pretty much, I'd say 75% of people are like, yeah. And then there's about 15% more people who are like, yeah. And then there's, of course, the 5% left, whatever percent left, that are always going to be mad no matter what. 5 to 10%. You're always going to have those people, and you're never going to satisfy them, and that's fine. Don't worry about those people, and that's okay. Worry about that 75, that 75% is what ultimately, just practically pay the bills. So worry about them. And then also they're the people that have stuck around, they're people like you and me who have been around for Star Wars for so long. So I'm with you. It was the same kind of fear, like what's going to happen? But
yeah,
we're introducing a new element to the show. The board.
Yeah. The good, the bad, the ugly. Okay.
Yes. So this will be kind of how we're review formatting here on. So I've got some cards here. This will be an opportunity for us to talk about things that we otherwise maybe didn't get a chance to talk about in the show.
Okay.
We won't spend a ton of time on these.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Pretty quick. So because we're already kind of talking about it, pacing.
Yeah.
Pacing for the show.
Yeah.
So this is kind of frustrating because in the beginning, this is what we talked about for like the first 3 episodes of our podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, man, the pacing is slow burn. Gosh, it's starting to pop off. The fuse is booming. This is so great.
Then we get to Peridia.
And it's brick wall. And it's like a new show starts.
Yeah.
One that's not as good as the show that was just happening. And
Take me back to the woods.
Yeah. And I still like everything that's happening.
Yeah.
It's just pacing though for the overall show. I gotta go here for pacing.
Do I get one, or are we just agreeing?
You can put it wherever you want. That's where I would put it, but you can put it wherever you want. You put it ugly.
I think it's almost ugly.
You'd almost put here. We'll put
I mean, like
we'll put
that.
it in between.
I think it's pretty rough
Put it in
because,
between.
like, what even comes with that is like we start focusing. We get Ezra, but then we lose Balin on Perdia, basically.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, and
a lot
it's
of the
like,
characters kind of
yes, they start going off, and I'm like, but I like these characters.
Yeah.
I want to keep knowing about them, and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna just sit on my war warg,
Yeah.
and just hang out. Yeah.
Now, this could all, depending on how the subsequent stories go, I could look back on the pacing and be like, maybe it wasn't so bad.
They were being too hard.
Yeah, because maybe it does ramp nicely to whatever is coming next if you look at it as a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
Because if you look at just the pacing of Ahsoka's character arc, I think it is okay. Again, it's that weird thing where it's a separation. I'm not seeing
She's
too
not
many
the main character.
Yeah, I've not seen too many TV shows do this. Like I think about some of my favorite shows like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, some of my 2 favorite TV shows of all time. Their arcs are intrinsically tied to the plot. They have similar trajectories and those things. And it was interesting to see Ahsoka's arc be separated. And I would say if you're judging the pacing off of Ahsoka's arc, it's not bad. It's okay. It has a nice ramp and then a nice sort of close. But yeah, that's where I'd put that.
She still doesn't do much.
Yeah, I think she does a lot
in the beginning, and then like towards the end, she's not doing much.
I mean, she fights Morgan. That's pretty rad.
Hanging out one fight.
Yeah, but then she comes in and saves. She does like the Anakin jump out of the ship and stops Shin.
Yeah,
I think she's active. She's all right.
Okay,
you cover this one. Costumes.
It's pretty sick. I will say that, like, I mean, I talked about that in the first episode that, like, I really like Balin and Shin's outfits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they have a very Darth Caedus-esqueness to them. I dig Ahsoka's like Ronin armor or Ronin gear into Ahsoka the White. I mean, I would. Like, it's going good. I mean, nothing really disappointed me. I mean, even Enoch, like, I think he's probably has the ugliest design.
I've heard a lot of people say that. I think like I'm the only person who likes that.
I just don't like the face. It just doesn't, like, it. I wish almost it was like an alien face instead of a human face. Like, does that make sense? That, like, it's kind of one of those things where I wish more celebrities in that like show up in Star Wars. I wish they were aliens rather than like being able to see their faces. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
On a similar vein, production design.
Oh, how everything looked?
Yeah, just like the design of the sets and like how set pieces looked. And I don't think they were. I mean, I think
they
used
volume
it
a lot.
I think they used it quite well.
No, they did. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah.
I don't get the volume hate.
You can see the edges sometimes. Like you can really feel like, oh, this is the volume. I get it. It's a beautiful piece of technology. But then when you watch Rogue One, or not Rogue One, but
Andor, there is a more tangibility.
Like they're literally like, oh, they just went and filmed it. And oh my gosh, these people found the huts where they filmed it. Yeah. It's like because they left the sets up. That it's like.
I wonder how much was real in Peridia though. Surely they just. I mean, there are places that look like that. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that like
you
maybe
think that was volume too?
Some of the tumbleweeds. Like were real, like some of the rocks, but I honestly don't think so. Yeah.
I would say it kind of goes in between because I liked it a lot, but like the map room, like the map fight.
Yes.
Boom. World Between Worlds. Boom. But as much as I love the Clone Wars flashback, I get that the haziness is supposed to be like it's a memory and all this, but I don't know. It felt a little... cheap isn't the right word. Maybe if that's the word you want to use, I guess. But
it helped hide the edges of it, all the mist and everything.
Yeah. So I'd put it in between. Definitely wasn't bad. I don't know if I'd go good.
I'm fine with that.
I'll save this one.
Uh-oh.
Action. Just action in general. Like we're talking space battles, and choreography is separate than this. This is just action. So if you want, you can separate this into maybe just the space battles and let's do non-lightsaber action. How about that? I know it's tough.
It is, because I think that's some of the lower points of it is when people are shooting blasters. I would almost put it over here next to pacing.
So when we do like good, bad, the ugly, by the way, like bad is not necessarily like awful.
Sometimes bad could be good. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, it's like, it's just because this is a phrase, right? So like bad is like,
try to make it fun.
It wasn't great, right? So it's kind of an in-between.
I gotcha. I mean, I would put it over here between like because I was going to say that I like one space battle.
I'd be okay with here because I like the space battles a lot.
Yeah.
But like we mentioned earlier, the zombie stormtrooper fights.
What a letdown. Just them in general. Like how cool. Like
I liked the ones with the Death Troopers.
Yeah, that's cool. Because that was actually felt like a real like, oh, this is a different type of opponent. Yeah. The stormtroopers, like they just kept getting up. And it's like, well, how's that really different than more stormtroopers showing up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
legacy characters. This one's more specific to Star Wars, so
good. You can't cover you can't do it.
It's not magnetic.
Just put it on the costume. What are you doing? Put it under costumes.
There.
Okay. All right. Legacy the good. Okay.
Yep. Characters in general, just like
everybody else.
Oh, it's just like characters. Like how were the characters in the show?
Rebels?
Yeah. Again, these were not made with the intention of it just being for Ahsoka. This is like we can use these for.
We can talk about anybody. Like
I put good. I liked all the characters in the show. There was no characters I didn't like.
I thought Sabine was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't not like her enough to put it in bad.
Yeah. Just didn't like her lying to her friend all the time.
Yeah.
But he's like, I can't wait to go home. You should tell him.
Well, we've talked about this, that it's how Dave writes trauma.
Yeah.
Is that
they become stoic.
They just kind of shut themselves off.
Yeah.
And so
but still,
it's kind of a repeat of Ahsoka a little bit.
Yes. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Story.
Do you remember when you had me close my eyes earlier? Yeah, it sounded pretty rad. It's rad. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Script. So it's like dialogue.
Yeah. I would put it between good and bad because there's some spots that I'm just like,
didn't love it, huh?
This is kind of rough. I like the story more than I like the script.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that also, I will say, I know I've said it before, but like, I think you could take an episode out of this show and really tighten it up.
Tighten down the Well, that goes back to pacing though, not so much the dialogue.
No, I know, but that's why it's over there. But I'm just saying that like I think that you could really tighten it up.
I'd put it mostly in good.
Yeah, but I'm like over there in that like
I'm just gonna give it the T is just barely hanging off.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how I put it. Yeah. This is an easy one. The villains.
Well, Balin. You put him in the good.
Balin, Shin, Thrawn, Enoch,
Marok.
Marok, forget it.
No, he's the man. I can't wait for the Marok comic book.
Choreography.
Like this is lightsaber fights?
Lightsaber fights. Well, I'd say
I put it between good and bad.
Any fighting with lightsabers.
With a melee weapon. I would put it between good and bad. Because I think that you have the really good, you got the fight. Then it's what about all the fights in episodes 4 and 5? All those were cool. But then I will admit, episode 7 was okay. And episode 8 was okay.
You ready for my hot take?
Yeah, you can. I don't care. You're going to say it's ugly. You're going to really call all that ugly.
Here's why.
It's fine.
Whatever. It's not because there's anything necessarily. It's our board. It's not because anything's bad.
Yeah.
It's because it's so inconsistent. That's probably one of my bigger critiques of the show. Like you have the fight with Balin in Ahsoka in episode 4.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lightsaber battles, maybe in all of Star Wars at this point. I love that fight a lot.
It's a banger.
You're using it's so unique. The music, the set piece,
why they're fighting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why they're fighting. It has every element of what makes a good lightsaber fight. It's so good. And then you have episode 5, where you have Hayden coming out there like he's right out of Revenge of the Sith. He's got all the muscle memory, from 20 years ago. It's excellent. And then you've got the fight that was in the 2nd episode with Marok. It's fine. I don't hate it. It's okay. And then you have the one that's with Balin and Ahsoka
on Peridia.
Again, it's fine. I don't hate it.
It was filmed weird. I feel like
it was
very tight.
It was filmed like a Kurosawa. I actually watched. I'm pretty sure in our last reel, the one we posted today, I posted a screenshot. Gosh, I can't remember the name of the film. I don't think it was actually a Kurosawa film, but it was a famous samurai film. It's like a lot of them are the same shots. I think that's why it was filmed that way.
Okay.
But I don't think it translated
like, it reminded
as well.
me of a Nolan movie where like it looks beautiful up until the actual action.
Yeah.
Where like you get so tight in on that action, and I'm like, I think you're just hiding this.
There's cool parts about it, but then what really brings it down for me is that all the zombie stormtrooper fights.
Yeah.
Which I know we put that in action, but it's more choreography, I guess, because those really did bring down the choreography for me, because I don't know if you saw the concept art that they posted today. They posted the official Star Wars channels posted some concept art from the show, and one of the pieces of concept art was from the stormtrooper fight, and it was so dynamic.
Yeah,
like Ahsoka was like in mid motion, like stabbing or something a stormtrooper, and you saw Ezra in the background doing the same thing, and they were kind of just in a line walking up to him,
and it almost seemed like too that one shot that we've poked fun at or whatever of the 3 of them blocking. It almost looks like they filmed that 3 separate times and put them together. They weren't actually.
And I get the point of that shot. You're meant to see Ahsoka the Master, Ezra the Knight, Sabine the Padawan.
Doesn't know what she's doing. She's getting shot in the face. Yeah.
And it's a fun thing, I guess, but it's like.
It just looks silly. They could have filmed it a little bit better rather than just the straight on shot. And then the straight on shot of the stormtrooper shooting doesn't really help.
I think that could have easily. Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Yeah. Oh, where it's working through.
The hallway fight?
Yeah, I was thinking more like Age of Ultron at the end where they're all fighting the different Ultrons.
Yeah.
That was
something like that, where it's like all of them are, I mean, if you're going to do zombie stormtroopers, imagine them like a swarm.
Yeah.
Coming over them, and they're like
and they're working,
fighting,
and they're working
Ahsoka's
together.
Getting beaten down, but then Ezra comes in for the save, and it could have been a lot cooler. And so that really, it brings down the choreography for me. It was just, the reason I put it in ugly is just because it's so inconsistent.
Yeah.
There are things that are peaks and valleys, man.
Yeah.
It's stuff that
all Star Wars is.
Right up here. And then you have stuff that is right down here. And that is when Star Wars is the most frustrating to me, is when you can't pin it down. Like, it's annoying.
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest critique.
Okay.
And then last one. This one's an easy one. Kevin Kinner's music.
'Tis good.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about him for some reason yet, but he's really done a good job.
Well, music's such an important thing to Star Wars.
Yes.
And it's so hard to any composer coming along is living in the shadow of, the modern day Mozart, John Williams.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll admit, when he was announced as the composer for this, I thought he did a good job in Clone Wars and Rebels, but I kind of wanted Ludwig back. Because
he's been doing Mando.
He's been doing Mando. He did Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of want him back.
Just for consistency.
And did Kiner do Mando season 3?
I don't. Now that you say Ludwig, I'm like, I don't think that he did Mando season 3. I think someone else did. Yeah.
I think he did like some of the main themes, but that's it. Well, I thought Kiner knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to do a John Williams light. He did his own thing.
But he still reused some of the themes, which I think is important to Star Wars.
He weaved it in there, but he also brought, kind of like what we were talking about last week with Filoni. He built a foundation, but then did his own thing mixed in there.
Yeah.
Like the theme that's really stuck with me is the theme when Balin is walking up on the father's hand, piano.
Yeah.
It's just so haunting.
Yeah.
I really like that.
What about when he's walking down the hallway in the first episode when they're fighting?
That's all with the piano as well.
And
that's also great.
I was going to say, it's the same also plays when they fight on Peridia. It's like,
I actually didn't make that connection until you just said that, but yeah.
Yeah. that like that those same keys are happening when they're fighting on Peridia, like right before they do their
Mhm.
little samurai showdown. Yeah.
It's just a really cool themes. I think that Star Wars is, music is so important to Star Wars. You really
Yes.
can't mess it up. There
Yeah.
are other franchises like with Marvel, for example.
Yeah.
If a score doesn't hit with Marvel, you probably don't notice.
Yeah.
But if a score doesn't hit with Star Wars, it's gonna feel. You're gonna
Yeah.
feel it.
Because
Like,
at some point we'll talk about it. I think that like John Williams is one of the triangles that makes Star Wars
Yes.
like work originally.
he absolutely is.
Yes, that
Without John Williams, it doesn't
wouldn't have-
work.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That is one of the bigger critiques I will give to Kenobi is that I think that the score is lacking.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't pull from
anything.
And it does kind of just feel like by the numbers. There are some themes I really like in that show, but Konnor, man, you go right here in good, my friend.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty good.
I think so.
It's mostly good. That's kind of what I expected.
It's fair. There's critiques.
Yeah.
There's stuff that
I think
there's
people are going to
issues.
get upset with the choreography thing.
But I mean,
We
you
gave
could,
a
like,
reason.
You could like
though.
a fight
Yeah.
or two, but like I can name 3 others that I don't like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's just, you know what, this is, I can't really expect more from Star Wars. I think that if everything's in the good category, I mean, that's an ideal world. That's like utopia level stuff. I mean, that's Revenge of the Sith. And let's face it, like nothing ever is going to top Revenge of the Sith. So, so we're never getting back there again. Like that's peak Star Wars. And, and I'm fine with that. And I will have to live with that. And that's okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I think that we should ask about these. If you had to pick, what's like the defining moment of the show?
Okay.
Yeah, or like maybe I was gonna say maybe you could give me 1 or 2.
I want you guys at home to play along with us. Your favorite moment from Ahsoka.
You could give us
Put
an
it
honorable
down.
mention though.
Huh?
How about an honorable mention as well?
And sure, an honorable mention. Let us know what your favorite moment from Ahsoka was. Let us know. I'd be really curious. Here's mine. A couple honorable mentions first.
Oh, a couple.
I just got 2. It was hard for me to nail down the whole. We've talked about it now several times today, but the whole fight with Balin and the map. I really like that. I love narratively what it is. I like you said, why they're fighting. I like the music. I like that they're using the environment. I like that Balin absolutely schools her. I like that
swinging his broadsword.
I like that Ahsoka has to resort to using the dark side a little bit. There's just so much to unpack with that fight. It's so good. It's not just a fight. It's not just them swinging their lightsabers at each other for the flash. There's some meat to it. There's some weight. There's some stakes to it. They have to win or the bad guys are going to get away and they lose. I really, really like that. Really like that fight. So that's one of my honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 2, I choose to live. I love that moment for her. I love, everybody knows now, the throwing away the saber, because that was the one that popped off, our video. But that is such an impactful moment. And I choose that moment because not only was it great for the character, but my reaction to it while sitting there. I like it when a show not only makes me feel something, or like a piece of media, a movie, a show. I like it when it makes me question what I'm thinking about something and it makes me reevaluate. I remember watching that and being like, I don't get this. But I knew that there was something tugging at me. Like, I know there's something there, but I don't understand it. And I wanted to get it.
I remember you calling. We talked on the phone
Yeah.
right after it, and we kind of like talked through it.
And we figured it out.
Yeah.
And that was a cool moment because it's nice to watch something and, you're kind of just going through it and then you leave it there. But that was a moment that really stuck. It's still with me, where I'm still coming up with new interpretations of it. And that was a cool feeling. I liked that as a viewer to be challenged in that way, to really think about what was being presented before me. So I really enjoyed that. But my favorite moment, to me, the best moment of the show is Force Ghost Anakin at the very end. Now I know people say, It's like, oh, because it's the fan service. It's because you're the fanboy, and you just mentioned Revenge of the Sith as your favorite Star Wars movie. Sure, there's an element of that. I'm not going to lie to you, but this, it is that continuation of the arc from the original trilogy, but it is also the completion of the arc for Ahsoka. And those two collide in such a really beautiful way. In this moment when his Force ghost appears, they start sowing the seeds earlier in the episode when Ahsoka says, he never left me, and I'm never going to leave you now, Sabine. Through everything, that happened in my life, Anakin never left. And then what do we find at the end? He still has never left her. He's always been right there. And it also is Anakin looking out and saying, that smile means so many things, like, you did good, kid. But it's also, my legacy is finally not just death and destruction. Your legacy is not just death and destruction. It's finally more than Vader. And yes, it was more than Vader because of Luke as well. But Luke was something that happened to Anakin after everything. This is the last sort of element of Anakin's life when he was a Jedi. And yes, you could argue with Padme, Luke is a part of that. But I think that that's a different sort of beast, right? It's a different part of Anakin's legacy. And I just love that these two moments sort of collide. Really the legacy, it's the old and the new coming together and going forward into the future. Anakin smiling like, hey, we're good. We're good right here. It's time to move on. But it's doing so in the sort of honoring the legacy and celebrating what's to come. And I just think it's a beautiful moment. So that's my favorite by far. I think it's good stuff.
Couple of my honorable mentions. I will say the fight in the map, or I think that that's just top tier Star Wars. I mean, it's firing on all cylinders. It's so good. It's so good.
Good stuff.
Yes. Then I'm having so much trouble with, because I feel different things. I'm gonna I'll reason through it with you that when they were fighting, incorrect kicks her through the world between world portal, whatever, the smoke he's walking through. You hear the exegol lightning strike as you see Vader for a moment. I'm back in the theater in 2005 going, it's on. It is on. And then I start seeing him swing his lightsaber, and then it's really on. This is amazing. That it's how does he still move like that? This was forever ago. That I on the edge of my seat. But I'm not that kid anymore. That was an awesome moment. And fighting's cool and all. But I think now that I've grown and everything, it's kind of in the people often ask why I don't have a Star Wars tattoo. And I always bring up that my opinions about it change all the time. So I wouldn't want to ever pin myself down to one concept in it. Does that make sense? That it's a growing and evolving thing. And I think that that's healthy for people and healthy for fans, that you grow to appreciate different parts of it. Does that kind of make sense? Do you understand where I'm going with that? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know. I'm that I'm really, again, I've got 4 things kind of written down here, and I'm I don't know really which one to pick. And so
you were making fun of me for 3.
I didn't know which one I just was well, hold on. How I didn't know where you were going exactly with yours. So so I think that it's down to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the conversation at the beginning of, it's episode 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or the waves. And I think that I will, even though that I think I'm going to go the waves. It's probably actually my favorite scene. I think it's the best done of the show. As just, there's a reel about it where I'm talking about it. I don't want to repeat all of that, but just again, I think that it just really tips a cowboy hat to the to episode 4 and the legacy of Star Wars, where it's like, okay, I can kind of rework what you did and push it into a different direction. And so I think that that's probably my favorite scene. I think it's wild because like I don't even really like those characters that much. That like Jason is okay, I guess. Hera's fine. What is it? Carson
Teva.
Carson Teva. He's fun. I like when he's around. I really like Hugh Wang. I really like him, but I mean, like, he's not even in that scene that much. So yeah, but I think that I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go Waves. This is my favorite scene.
It's interesting that we have the same reason too for both of the, like, you chose that scene, I chose my scene, but it's the same reason. It's like this legacy of old and new, kind of coming together in this way.
Yeah. Again, I think it's important to create new things and to grow, but I think it's important also to remember where you came from. And
exactly. I mean, we use the word all the time. It's about legacy. I mean, at the end of the day, Star Wars has a DNA. And if you don't acknowledge that, you're going to get a weird amalgam of stuff that doesn't quite work, and people are going to get frustrated with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we kind of went off on some very philosophical,
got a little deep
rantings and ravings. Yeah. So I guess the big question is like, where do we go? Where do we go from here with Star Wars? Where does Star Wars go from here? We've talked a lot about Heir to the Empire. Is that where we're headed? Are we headed?
Well, we know a movie's coming that's called Heir to the Empire.
Well, we don't know it's called that, but
I thought that's what they had said.
There was a rumor. I don't think it's confirmed, but
I thought that's what his movie was called.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm calling it that for now, just because it's easy to call it that.
Yeah, I think that's happening. Do you think we'll get another episode? We know in a couple months we're going to be getting the Skeleton Crew.
Yes, we're getting Skeleton Crew. We're getting. So here's what we know. We know we're getting Skeleton Crew, which is in the Mandoverse.
Yes,
it's going to have some ties because we just got a synopsis, and it does have something to do with another galaxy.
Yeah, so they're probably.
Please don't just take back Ahsoka and Sabine.
No, it won't be that.
Not. No. I do wonder though, are we going to get
a cameo?
A cameo from Balin maybe? Did Ray Stevenson film something before he passed?
That'd be cool.
That'd be a treat for the fans. That'd be really something. Wouldn't count on it, obviously that was completely out of their control, but just something I thought about.
Yeah.
Then we have Bad Batch season 3, which I'm looking forward to. Oh, yeah. I like Bad Batch.
I think that Bad Batch is the best of the 3 animated shows, personally. It's just me.
It's a bold claim. I like it a lot.
I just think the animation's well done. I mean, it's the Mando formula.
It's the best looking for sure.
Yes. Man. Yeah. Oh, dude. I watched some Clone Wars this past week. I was like, man, this is a little rough around the edges. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. It's very Bad Batch season 1 is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. I really like it a lot. And then we have Mando season 4 is on the horizon.
Acolyte.
This is the other one I was trying to think of. Yeah. Which that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And then, so we got a bunch of stuff. But what about for the threads we set up here in Ahsoka? Where are we going?
Where's the story going?
Where do we go from here? Because here's a fun little nugget of info. You know me, always looking, what's the real world evidence?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So last week,
you know how like the official Star Wars accounts and like the Ahsoka accounts and stuff, they've been posting these little video teasers the Tuesdays before the episodes drop. So last week before the finale dropped, they posted one and they said series finale airing tonight. Series finale is what they said. Well, this last week, they've been posting a bunch of teasers being like all episodes airing now. And it said all episodes of season 1, season finale airing. And so I went back to that post and now it says season finale. And I know it said series because there were a bunch of people in the comments who were saying like, oh, I guess we're only getting one season because it says series finale. So make of that what you will.
Interesting.
But
so we're getting more.
I'm just saying, why make your social media marketing manager go in there and actually change the word on a previous post if there wasn't something going on? Now, maybe it's just because it's up in the air and nothing's locked in. That's what I've heard as far as the rumor mill goes. But it's interesting. Just a little
Gotcha.
Little thing to think about.
Yeah.
But as far as like the in-universe, we talked a lot about Abeloth last week. Look, guys, I'm not the biggest fan either, okay? I know Seth's not, right? You're not a big fan of her.
I mean, it's fine. I just think that I was doing some research after we talked about her some more. I mean, that's 9 books.
It's 9 books.
It's crazy. And then Luke fights her, and then I can't even tell where how Darth Krayt even gets involved. Does he come back in time to fight her?
I don't know enough about it.
Because I don't understand. I can't read 9 books. I don't have enough time to do that. I have barely enough time to research for this show. It's wild that and they weren't even done yet. She was gonna it was almost reminding me of Megatron or Cobra Commander or the Shredder, where it's this 80s villain that just won't die. Yeah, where it's just it's a bit much. It would have been cool if it was just a trilogy.
I kind of alluded to it last week, but it was Abeloth is always one of those characters that just made me be this is why I don't like Legends a whole lot.
Hey, forever kind of like what we said earlier with the choreography, for every good Legend story, there's 3 bad ones.
So I'm over halfway through Heir to the Empire right now, and it's dude, I get it. I get it now. It's crazy. I'm it's so good.
Yeah.
It's actually making me upset that
you haven't read it sooner.
That I didn't read it sooner, and that we haven't gotten this story sooner, in live action.
Yeah.
I was man, this is it's really good. It's just some really fun stuff.
Yeah, you can see why people die on that hill where it's
yeah, I know. I could see it. There's a small thing, but Luke getting stranded out in space and having to put on a spacesuit and climb out and do mechanic work on his X-Wing, or else he's going to die in the vacuum of space. It's just, I don't know. It's a fun scene. I never would have thought of. It's not a scene I knew I needed to see, but
is that where he puts himself in stasis too?
Yeah, he goes into hibernation. And R2 has to wake him up.
Yep.
It's just it's fun. So I'm looking forward to finishing the book. I'm not like you. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I've been reading it a little bit slowly, but. So I won't talk too much more about Abeloth. But
do you think there's a chance the Zepho, the evil Zepho?
I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay.
No, I don't.
You don't think that it's possible?
No, and here's why. I think that
I'm still hoping for it, since there was the writing and stuff like that on the wall.
It's one thing. It's one thing for Dave to bring in a lot of stuff from the animation and stuff, because that's not a far jump.
Well, he even had it. I was going to say it was in Bad Batch. One of those creatures, they fought one.
No. I mean,
the Guardians.
I mean, a lot of this stuff with the Mortis gods and things like that,
Gotcha.
Pulling in some of these more deep cuts.
Yeah.
The Zepho, though, from a video game, I think that it's fine for an Easter egg, but as a major plot point, that is even more of an ask to be
Too
hey,
much of a reach.
You got to, not only do you have to watch all this stuff, but now you have to play 2 video games. And I did a little research on that. And I think that the reason why that was there, I forgot where you find Kujet. I said Sujek before, it's Kujet. I'm sorry. Kujet was the dark side Zepho who caused the fall of that race. You know where you find his tomb in the game? On Dathomir. So that connection makes a lot of sense. If that's going to be the night, the Great Mothers. So I think that that's probably as far as that goes.
Gotcha.
Is they needed an ancient temple and some writing, and they were well,
he's already tied to this.
Yeah, why not? Some fans will pick it up. But
well, I just figured with the Zepho, there's an evil father father, daughter, and son.
I could
so that's why I'm maybe a twisted version of the 3. That's why they're pointing.
Maybe the Zepho, or the canon version of the Celestials or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I
just have a hard time believing that they're going to pull in something from a video game to be a major plot point going forward.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's just my gut. That's what that tells me. But a couple of little small things maybe about where we go. So some things about Balin, what if that beacon is calling him toward the font of power and the pool of life?
Yeah.
Maybe there's another version of that on Peridia.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
it's an idea.
It's ending how the Mortis arc starts. They see the light flickering out in the distance. Yeah. Right. Let's go to that. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I've seen this floating around that if it really is Abeloth, then Shin could be a sacrifice Balin makes to Abeloth, because Abeloth kind of like she like takes people's forms, but they have to die first. And
almost
Shin's kind of got that look.
She's got them crazy eyes.
Yeah, and imagine her with that crazy smile. She's kind of got that look.
Yeah,
I could see that. And you had a really interesting point when I brought this up to you a couple of days ago.
Yeah. I mean, you can say it unless you want me to.
I was just going to give you the opportunity to throw it out
like,
there.
well, when you said like Balin has to sacrifice like his child, essentially, then like I was thinking back to, other parables or like Bible stories that
The biblical references.
Yeah, biblical references that there's been a couple in the show already that like a dark version of Abraham and Isaac.
Yeah,
that having to sacrifice your child.
That's interesting because if you're thinking about Balin as a dark mirror to Abraham, that's a wild thing to do. Abraham kind of being the father, he's called the father of faith, and essentially sacrificing his child.
Well, but here's the thing: is like, what's Balin do? He is he kind of is the father of faith in this too. That he's on a crusade. He's on a holy quest. He's burdened with glorious purpose. He's not sure, but he's going.
Yeah,
it's very similar to Abraham.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's wild. It's wild stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I don't know why when you said that like clicked with me. That yeah.
And the last thing I'll really say, because we covered most of it last week about like where we think this is going to go, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I think that Sabine maybe goes back to the other galaxy, but I think Ahsoka's there to stay.
She's staying. She won't help with Thrawn?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think she dies there in some way, whether it's a heroic death or she lives out her days there.
Okay. Starting a new Jedi temple.
Yeah.
That's she has Hugh Wang, and we learned that like they can build lightsabers. So yeah.
I'm sticking to the only thing I would say is maybe she goes back for a minute, but then goes back.
Yeah.
I think that is where she's there. She's there to stay. Maybe she goes back for a little vacay to help out Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And maybe she does. Maybe she helps out Luke and Leia and bounces back to Peridia.
Okay.
But I think that they're there to stay. So we are running a little long, but we did promise a little bit of Loki talk.
Oh goodness. Okay. Yeah.
So
all right.
What do you think? You want to go into it?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, I can give you my little quick 5-minute review. I mean, how much fun.
Yeah.
That was all that episode was just stupid fun. And talk about like coming out of the gate swinging, that I felt like it was firing on all cylinders, like music, acting, story, that I'm like, I'm interested. I am paying attention this entire time.
Yeah.
And then I hate to say it, that I was like, why wasn't Ahsoka doing this the entire time? That it's like, you know what I mean? That like, and I think that that's unfair, because I do think that Loki is the best of the MCU shows so far.
Yeah.
So I just was happy that this, we kept going right where we left off, and very cool to see. I can't remember the actor's name, the guy that plays Obi, the one he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh,
he's also,
Short Round.
Yes,
yeah.
And then he's also in Temple of Doom. I can't remember what his name is, but really cool to get him in there. I mean, I loved a lot of the design choices, like Mobius being in that giant spacesuit with a giant like
the production design is insane.
Big tube. Yeah, that just again, like I think those were real sets. That's the other thing. That it was very, very cool. But I don't have much criticism. I mean, they did a better job making Kang seem like a threat in 40 minutes than Ant-Man.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, that like Tom Hiddleston, man, doing a good job. So more of that, please. I'm excited for Thursday.
Loki was also my favorite of the MCU shows, which, by the way, I apologize. We record these on Wednesdays, so we're going to be over a week behind.
Yeah, we'll be behind.
But it was my favorite MCU show, and the music, yes, the intro music is so good.
Did you know the flashing of all of his name?
Uh-huh.
Have you heard about that? Those fonts are all from the different movie posters that he's been in. So like Thor,
really?
Thor Dark World, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers. Infinity War. Yeah, that's where
Interesting.
that's where several of those fonts are taken from,
Okay.
along with like runes and like other things they took liberties with. But like
That's
where they
cool.
got. Yeah, I
I
just
didn't
thought
know
that,
that.
I just thought that was neat. Anyway, that you're talking about the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It did. Like the Gordon Ramsay meme, like finally some good MCU.
Yeah.
You know, because it kind of really fell off for me after Endgame.
Yeah.
With a few bright spots.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Loki season 1.
Yeah. I like Eternals for what it is. They tried something new. I don't care.
That's for me. That's the only thing I can think of. Is there any other? I feel like I'm missing one. Is there Guardians 3?
Yeah.
I like Guardians 3.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. Like you said, the production design and just everything was really good. It's just such a wacky idea.
Yeah.
It's really neat. I have one critique though, and I hate that it's a critique. It's just
an aesthetic choice you didn't like.
Why did it look like that? I don't know why they chose to do that. And I fully understand this might just be a me thing, but it was distracting to me the entire episode. And what otherwise to me, what I thought was excellent. I thought cinematography, the editing, the music, the acting, all of it was fantastic.
I mean, some of those camera shots are ridiculous. Like when he hits the button and it's an upshot with his foot when he hits the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like we're going to focus in on that tube and then come out as they're coming around the corner. It's just like, dude, camera's moving around. It's awesome. Yeah.
It felt, again, it was all really good. It was just,
felt like a real place.
I don't know why they chose to put that weird filter on it. It made it look like a old VHS type look. It was very grainy and on old film look, or I don't know if they were going for old film or old digital, but on old footage like that, you get a lot of pinks and like greens, and the highlights are very glowy. And so you got that like bloom almost. I don't know if this makes sense to those of you who aren't involved in like photography and editing and stuff, but I was watching it and I noticed it right away. I was like, why is this so grainy? I thought that maybe like, when you open up YouTube and you have a bad connection.
Bad feed.
And you're like, oh, I'm going to wait for it. Like you don't notice it at first because you're just waiting for it to catch up.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me at first. I was like, oh, it'll catch up. And then I was like, no, I think this is on purpose. And that's my only critique.
Well, this show more than most shows, there's probably a reason for it.
No, so I get the choice. It just, for me personally, it was distracting. Gotcha. And I think they could have achieved something similar by not going so hard. The grain would have been enough for me to sell the idea that they were this vintage time travel type thing. The grain would have been enough for me. Going so hard into the pinks and stuff. And again, maybe this is just me because I do a lot of photography and I'm always doing color tint. Like I'm always trying to get rid of magentas and stuff like that. Because I won't bore you guys with the details, but it's a thing that you're always messing with. So again, it could just be a me issue. Like, did you notice that at all?
No.
So it might just be, please
maybe
let me know in the comments. I know several of you
thought about that.
What?
Maybe it's your TV.
It wasn't my TV.
Okay. All right.
It wasn't my TV.
Okay.
If you guys notice this, let me know in the comments. Or if you guys think I'm crazy, also let me know in the comments. But so that was general thoughts on Loki. I think it'd be fun. Maybe when it's wrapped up, let us know if you're enjoying the Loki thoughts. Maybe when the show is done, we'll do kind of a similar, lighter version of the board.
Maybe. Can come back.
The board can come back. Maybe. We'll see. So, all right. I think it's time to start to wind her down into some fan questions, which you guys had some really fun ones this week. Thank you guys so much for continuing to be involved with the fan questions segment. We really appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and start us off with, and by the way, to get involved in this section of the show, it's always on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Dune Sea. In our stories, there's a prompt every Wednesday or sometimes later on Tuesday, but you'll see them always on Wednesday with a prompt about asking us some questions. So J_Williamson94 says, deep fake the OT heroes for Heir to the Empire film or recast? It's a tough question. What are your thoughts?
Recast them.
So we were just talking about,
I don't like it, but
yeah,
for in the movie space and going forward, because we don't know. What if Heir of the Empire they do a trilogy?
yeah,
Yeah. What if Thrawn's not one and done?
right.
We should give people the opportunity.
I think that
I don't want it to look soulless. I don't think deepfake's there yet. That's the whole thing. Is I still think that the uncanny valley still happens sometimes. Indy proved that. That I thought that Harrison Ford looked good in some of those shots.
but there were others.
Then
Yes,
there were others
yes.
that were rough. And to think about that you're doing that for 3 different characters.
I think that this is really hard for me because
You love those guys.
I was just talking about how the actors are just as much a part of the legacy. But unfortunately, you're going to have to do that with one of them.
Yeah.
No matter what, Leia, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
I liked in Mando and Book of Boba that Mark Hamill got to come back and do that. So I was more than okay with those deep fakes because it was Mark Hamill. I was more than happy with that. I would not like them to just slap Carrie Fisher's face, even if it was Billy Lord. I wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
It's different for me if I know that it's Mark Hamill being de-aged or if it's Harrison Ford. But I was kind of one of the last ones on this picket line here. I'm kind of with you all. I think that
the technology is not there yet.
For me, I actually think that the deepfake technology it's not bad. It's the voice.
Yeah.
That part of me, this is what sold me ultimately was in Book of Boba. I thought he looked fantastic. And I thought there was something off with the voice, but there is a particular line that has always bothered me in that show. It's when he's walking with Grogu and he says, size matters not. When he's telling Grogu that, he's like, that's what Yoda used to say. That's how he talked. But if you watch the gallery episode and you listen to Mark Hamill, like that's in that section, the BTS, Mark Hamill delivers that with such like passion. He gives a little Yoda impression. He's like, size matters not. Oh, and then he chuckles to himself. He's like, what? That's how he talked. Yeah. And then he continues. Mm-hmm. I'm like, none of that translated. No. Not a bit of it. And that would have been so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, but you got not a lick of that in the show.
Yeah.
And so that is what sold me on ultimately. Yeah, you're losing that part of the performance. It works with Darth Vader because he's kind of a robot anyway.
He's a robot, yeah.
But I remember watching that in the gallery episode because it didn't really bother me that much until I watched that. I was like, man, Mark is putting so much into this performance and all of it is being lost, every bit of it. And it kind of bummed me out. So I'm like,
maybe you just saw a blooper.
No, I mean, there's a chance that Dave directed that episode.
Yeah, I'm
maybe
just giving you a hard time. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that's fun. It shows, I mean, Luke was fun. You know, he's a fun guy and he's so stoic in that episode.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you guys. It's probably recast time.
All right. Jeremy Blore. Do you think that Ahsoka's lightsaber was actually broken in the fight with Morgan? Yeah, I think it's toast.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. I think that she's going to throw away the dual wielding altogether. Honestly, I think that's just going to be a new aspect of Ahsoka the White. She's grown up.
She doesn't need both sabers anymore.
She doesn't need both sabers anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marshall McElhaney, which, again, I apologize, Marshall, if I ever pronounced that wrong. What do you guys do for work? Love the content. Keep it up. Oh, personal question.
I'm a behavior facilitator for a school organization, so I work with troubled youth.
And I am a electrical engineering technician at a engineering facility.
Whoa.
So it sounds a lot cooler than it really is. No, we do some fun stuff over there. And then also we both do a little media production.
That is true.
On the side.
Oh, that is true. I guess that because that's kind of how we got to talking a little bit. Where it's like, oh, you like doing that stuff? I like doing that stuff too. A lot of
Seth's more into weddings.
Yeah, filming events. How about that? We'll say that.
And I do product photography, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for the personal question.
Yes,
appreciate it.
Yes. So this is Maddie Cam. Oh my gosh, Camp Strite Camp.
Maddie. So thanks.
Maddie.
This is from Maddie.
I'm gonna call you Maddie. What do you think about the status of the
statues?
Oh, what do I think about the statues of the father, son, and daughter? Well, I think it's wild that the head on the daughter is gone altogether. And
What
you
does
know
it
what?
mean?
That here you go. We could even like to give you a little preview. We're going to talk a lot more about those statues next week. And
Next week is the Mortis arc.
yeah, we're going to just talk about the Mortis arc next week. So yeah, to just give you to jump to that. But yeah, I think it's weird that her head is gone. That again, deep cut. That was the whole thing. Is I was like, can't believe he did it. I can't believe in the first. We even talked about that in the first episode. It's like you hear the sun because people were saying it's Darth Maul, and it's like it's not Darth Maul. Come on, guys. That if it's anything, it's because you even see the three figures there when she's aligning that. It's like he was telling us all since the beginning.
Yeah.
So I just can't believe that he's deciding to go there.
Crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Joaquin Oliveri says, how does Anakin become a Force ghost? Is there any lore explanation? Is it because he's the chosen one? Great question. It's not because he's the chosen one. So basically when he dies, Obi-Wan is like ready to take him in. So like we kind of get a little bit of this in Ahsoka, like the Force ghost space, like time doesn't really work the same. So like as Anakin is passing on, there's like a period of time where you do lose yourself to the living force, where you kind of just lose your consciousness. So like there's a period of time where there's like training you have to undergo. There's like some steps, whatever, to maintain your consciousness when the living force. And basically Obi-Wan, and I think Yoda maybe, but I know just Obi-Wan at the very least was like ready as Anakin was turning back to the light. Yeah, it basically reached out. It was like, hey, we got to be quick about this.
Yeah.
So you can be a Force ghost. Let's do this quick.
Yeah.
And that's how Anakin becomes a Force ghost, because you notice Anakin doesn't disappear, but neither does Qui-Gon. So that's because they both sort of learned
the hard way.
Yeah. Qui-Gon was just about to finish his training when he died. And Anakin was sort of brought in later. So, I mean, the meta explanation is just, obviously none of this lore was there. At the time of the original trilogy, all Jedi just became Force ghosts. But
Frankenstein, number one. Where would you like to see the franchise go in the next 5 years? Okay, that's tough. Oh my goodness. I think Star Wars belongs on television. I'm okay with more shows. I'm okay with building in this time period. I think that you got Jon Favreau kind of at the helm of all this. Take what he's learned with the MCU, slowly build on this. Take your time. Don't go. I don't like the method where we're just throwing anything in a dartboard and seeing what sticks. I want, really a really thought out story. And you have Disney Plus, utilize it. I personally don't need more movies. That's just me though. Maybe the wrap ups, but I think you could even do those as like Disney Plus specials, where like that are also shown in the theater or something like that, where you really up the budget and stuff.
See, I like everything building to a movie because it's an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your boy Fitzy says, in Rebels, the father points Ezra to a portal to the WBW. Could that be where the statues are pointing? Very well could be. Could be another statue to the WBW. The only reason I'm kind of leaning against that is because we know that there was some form of entrance to the WBW on the Chimera, and so why not just use that? But that was also kind of destroyed. But then it was
Balin was never up there though.
I know, but why not go there in the first place if that's what you were looking for?
And it's broken.
Yeah, but they rebuilt it once.
Yeah.
Because they transported it onto the Chimera. Why can't they build it again? So
yeah,
I don't know. That a loose maybe is kind of how I'd answer that question.
Rick Darklighter, what are your favorite Star Wars characters?
Depends on the day of the week. Sometimes Anakin Skywalker, sometimes Luke Skywalker.
I'm going to go Anakin Darth Vader, Han Solo, and
Han Solo.
Han Solo. He doesn't get talked about. We've hardly even talked about him. And then also that's kind of like it depends on the day, but like a couple of the ones that like come to mind. I really like I like Din Djarin. I like the Mandalorian a lot. I like R2-D2 a lot. But yeah, I guess those would be up there. I also really like Cobb Vanth like a lot. I think he's a really neat concept.
He's
like,
up there.
I really like him. Like I think that he is a fun Star Wars character. And then Obi-Wan. But
Obi-Wan is keeps climbing my list.
Yeah,
I mean, favorite characters.
Yeah, Obi-Wan. Hello there. I mean, like it's great. Yeah, that it's just yeah. So yeah.
Andrew Greco _1. What sort of Star Wars do you want to see in the future? Jedi of the Old Republic, far future, no Jedi? That's a great question. I think that after this Heir to the Empire, whatever that is, I'd kind of like to see the Skywalker saga be put to bed. Because I think there does get to a point where you are
we can't fill in all the gaps.
It down.
Yeah,
it leaves all the mystery out.
Yeah.
You could argue we're already kind of getting there. But we're in this period of time right now that's unexplored, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But after we're done filling in that gap, let's move on. And as far as where I'd like to go, I don't have a preference. I'd kind of like Old Republic, I guess. But far future doesn't really excite me because I feel like I like this being the end, but we already know we are going far into the future. So I don't know.
I don't hate the idea of getting like an animated version, like kind of like what Clone Wars did, but like what's like leading into the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Yes, that I would really like. We were just talking about favorite characters. I enjoy Kylo Ren. I think he's a neat, I think he's a neat character. I would love to see stuff with the Knights of Ren, stuff with Snoke, stuff that just kind of fills in those gaps. Because that stuff, I mean, yeah, you can read Aftermath, but there's, it's a little rough.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I'm with you.
Yeah. BC _Scrubs says, is Dave a Loader fan? Because there's a lot of Lord of the Rings vibes in Ahsoka. Giant pointing statue, like the Argoloth. Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Yeah, the kings pointing. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, he's always considered Ahsoka like the Gandalf of Star Wars. And like this is him making it, like making that a fact.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I mean, there's no doubt about
it.
And
I mean, Star Wars is mythology. Lord of the Rings is mythology. I think that they can meet on a hill and shake hands. I think that's okay.
So I think it's time to wind her down.
Yes.
We've had a long one today.
Yes, we have.
So Ahsoka, it's been fun. It's been fun talking about it, but it's time for us, like Ahsoka, to move on. And we're moving on next week to the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars, the 3-episode arc. If you want to play along, check that out. Watch it before next Friday. We're going to be chatting, breaking it down, all of the good stuff.
Kind of see where maybe we could pick out where this is going to go.
Yeah. Maybe,
yeah. What was Dave trying to tell us with that?
Yeah. Maybe draw some connections, pick up some things that we forgot about the Mortis arc, and also just enjoy some of the classic hits from the Clone Wars. I mean, that's one of the best arcs from that show.
Yes.
And then moving forward with that, we're going to be doing a tier list the week after that. All of the Star Wars, like canon, live action and animation. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Otherwise, let us know what you'd like to see. There's tons to talk about out in the Dune Sea. Can't wait.
Well, hold on. There's one other thing.
Okay.
I mean, guys, I hate to be that guy, but if you've watched this far, let's smash that subscribe button. Let's hit that like button. Let's hit that little star on Spotify if you're on there, just because But let's get them numbers up.
Oh man,
yeah,
Seth's getting the numbers. I gotta pump them up.
Yeah, let's pump them numbers. But yes, there is plenty to talk about.
Yes, and we thank you guys so much for your support so far.
Yes.
You guys have been so awesome with the questions, the comments, the
concerns.
It's been great, guys. We really appreciate you so much. We'll catch you next week out on the Dune Sea, ready to talk Mortis and the Clone Wars. See you guys next week.